Welcome to RevShots, your weekly dose of quick hit wisdom, where we tackle the most pressing topics of the day for ourselves and our revenue teams. Our show features expert guests with decades of experience. We delve into what works and why, sharing tools to be unapologetically successful, from making our number to delighting our clients. If you're ready to boost your knowledge in under 30 minutes on a weekly basis, tune in. Follow me on LinkedIn or join our mailing list to stay updated on our latest features. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for a special edition of RevShots. We are really excited to have Matt Schwab join us again. Matt's background is absolutely amazing, and the whole purpose of RevShots is to absolutely give you those quick hits of wisdom. And it's almost like eavesdropping into conversations that are happening around the country, around the world right now, because chances are, if you're thinking about it, we're talking about it on this show. So thank you for joining. Matt, nice to have you back and joining us again.
Hey, great to be back, Dion. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about your background and the customers you serve, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So Access.io is a consulting firm that helps startups scale their go-to-market operations. So we really support marketing, sales, customer success with a technology focus on the go-to-market tech stack. So the way to think about that is whether you have HubSpot or Salesforce, we help manage those applications and everything that touches them. So the thing that's always top of mind for us is the customer journey, from website to marketing, through sales to customer success. And we really look at how technology and data play in with each other throughout that process.
Yeah. And so, Matt, thank you so much for that. And what I heard you say, and what I really love about what you do, is your focus is on the customer journey. Because it seems as if when we are in startup mode and we're going to go to market, we have this nervous energy and tension about if we build it, they will come. So I know we're going to talk about what you're hearing right now, but I have a quick question for you before we do that, which is, when you're talking with folks about that customer journey, is there some sort of aha moment when they go, oh, I need to be looking at this from not only my perspective, but also the perspective of my customer?
Yeah, that's a really great thought, Dion. One thing that we constantly see is customers are not really realizing, or clients are not really realizing, how many touches it actually takes to interact with the sales team, right? There could be 2 screens, 3 screens, multiple forms you have to fill out sometimes. And there's just not the level of communication between marketing and sales that we typically want to see. And reducing that friction between when sales reaches out to that initial touch point, and also the speed to lead there, is vitally important. And people always seem to be really surprised when we start to look at things like how many touches there are and the true speed to lead on the client side. It's much longer than people actually guess. And we do a lot of tests. We have people come in, fill out leads. We actually use a stopwatch and see exactly how long it takes for people to reach out to us. So it's really interesting, and people are often surprised by that, but it's a quick win to improve and increase that conversion rate from lead to opportunity.
Yeah, I love that nugget, everybody. So if you're sitting there going, oh yeah, we're good, we got all that dialed in, congratulations, number one. But I think number two is, do you really? I think sometimes we think we're good in an area and maybe we're not. So I would just encourage everybody to kind of hear what Matt said there and get a stopwatch, sit with your salespeople, right? Really dig into those tangible things that have the biggest impact. So the question is, if you think you're doing these things well, the question is, how well on a scale of 1 to 10 are you doing them, and how consistently, right? So I think that's a really good nugget for today, for sure. So Matt, with that, one of the questions we ask everybody on the show, well, the only question we ask everybody on the show, is what are you hearing in your conversations today with your clients that are in that startup mode? That's the world you're in. So what is the hot topic right now that you are hearing, and what are people doing about it?
Yeah, so there's two topics and they're both completely different, but these are two consistent themes that I've heard over across the last 3, 4 months or so. One being around data and data integrity. There's a lot of startups right now that started anywhere between, let's say, 2016 and 2021. And you have kind of this gap of time where these startups, they're starting to mature a little bit. Maybe
Yeah.
they're in Series A, Series B, Series C, and their data and the amount of data that they have in their CRMs has dramatically increased over that time. And what we're seeing is more and more RevOps teams, analytics professionals are pulling data out of Salesforce, having to massage that data, and then present that information to senior leadership or the board after it's been massaged. And there's a lot of risk in that in terms of data integrity. So we've been asked a lot lately to go in, give an audit of their CRM, the overarching data integrity. And what are we seeing? Is it duplicate accounts? Is it duplicate contacts? Is it flows that have not been followed? For example, you have leads that are coming in. Are they converting to opportunities? Are they converting to contacts? Or do you have 30,000 leads that are just sitting there not being used? And you just have this lead count that continually increases. So we're getting asked a lot to go in and take a look and really audit the data integrity of their CRM.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And so I guess the question is, when you kind of do those audits, Matt, what happens next at the end of the day? Hopefully people aren't going backwards, right? Because I think it's really easy to go, oh man, we coulda, woulda, shoulda, but there's no value in that. So what are you seeing people do with that data? What's the genesis of the ask, and what are you seeing people do with that data?
Yeah, that's two great questions. So the genesis of the ask is there's reporting that the board is asking for that are taking them hours and hours and hours to get and to compile and to then ultimately transfer that into a slide deck. That's inefficient and that's time wasted where you could be spending that time doing more revenue generating activities than massaging data. So that usually, hey, we're having a hard time answering this question for the board. How can we do this better? How can we get access to that data in a more efficient way? So that's really kind of the genesis of it. And then what we're actually physically seeing in there is a bunch of different things. So I'll use Salesforce as an example. We handle both HubSpot and Salesforce, but both of those CRMs, most all CRMs have some level of duplicate management in their settings. Well, a lot of times you see organizations, they're trying to move fast. You're in startup world. Maybe you have employee number one or number two. Maybe they were hired for a number of different reasons to wear a lot of different hats. They started out building out your CRM, but they're not maybe a CRM professional or somebody that has had lots of years building out a brand new CRM. And what we're seeing are just some basic things like going to your settings and manipulating the duplicate management settings that are available. You just see a lot of times it's very out of the box, elementary duplicate management settings, or they brought in a third-party application to help manage duplicates across multiple objects, leads, contacts, accounts, but they've not looked at that in years or adjusted those settings based on the data that they're actually receiving from their form. So you can go out right now, look at your duplicate settings, get a quick win and see, hey, is this one duplicate setting that came out of the box in Salesforce and HubSpot? Have we actually looked at this? How are we controlling incoming bad data, whether you're importing things from, a Zoom info, for example? How are we managing all of those things? And you can adjust those settings pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, Matt, is the whole, so many analogies going through my head, right? Which is measure twice and cut once and start with the end in mind and things of that nature. And even when we do those things, we still sometimes end up with a less than ideal environment. So is that kind of what you're seeing and hearing folks do so let me back up a little bit and come at it from a contextual perspective, which is we didn't get into a data mess overnight. We're certainly not going to fix it overnight. So let's talk a little bit about maybe level setting the expectations of creating a program and project like that, and then kind of talk about that. And then once you kind of see and achieve those milestones, what's the result of it?
Yeah, that's really one thing I want to touch on that you just kind of said there a little bit is, how do you kind of go about doing this, right? It didn't just happen overnight, like you said.
Nope.
All of this, the best way to improve data integrity is where you have a leadership team, a C-level suite that demands it. If that data integrity and the demand for data integrity and cleanliness operationally isn't talked about or mentioned by the executive team, things seem to fall to the wayside. It's interesting in startup world, we all know that often there's a rotation of CROs or CMOs or different folks that come in and out of the business. And when different folks come in and out of the business, you often have different methodologies or different approaches, different processes. And those are all very normal things, right? That's going to happen in a vast majority of your startups. The thing is when those processes and procedures change, what does that do to the previous processes? How is that being monitored from a data standpoint? How does that change the way you look at data? And trying to really understand what was, so what the new processes can really encapsulate what you're trying to do as an organization, but also maintain that data integrity.
Yeah. There's just so much there that you talked about. And I agree with you, Matt. It's very easy to come in as a leader and want to help and make change and all that good stuff, right? I think it's almost like switching out cars where, and that's sometimes the analogy I give folks too is, yeah, you can switch up a sales methodology, but quite frankly, the engine is still the same. The people in seat are still the same. We need to manage a change management process. There's a qualitative component of that we all need to be very cognizant of, right? And so shameless plug here. This is why everybody, Matt is going to be one of our speakers at our upcoming virtual summit, H2H, Human Connection Done Right, where at Revenue by Design, we're focused on harmonizing and helping organizations from startup to mid-market harmonize people, process, and tech. Because it's really easy to look at something and if everything's a nail if we're a hammer, right? So look at a process and go, oh, we can change all that. We're not remembering that we need to bring our people along for the journey. Otherwise, you got a bunch of people going, I'm not doing that. It's hard for me. We don't, as humans, don't like change, right? So I'm not saying anything, none of us, we all know. So that being said, Matt, as you're hearing that and as you're seeing, or is that kind of the aha moment when you talk with folks and the executives and you go, hey, this is a top-down thing. And then how does that go? And then number two, how are you seeing organizations successfully kind of manage that change?
Yeah, it's the conversations. If I said they were easy, I'd be lying. They're not easy.
But they're important.
It's not something the executive teams really think about. And frankly, they shouldn't have to, right? They've got a lot of things they need to do in terms of driving revenue for the company, because at the end of the day, that's what truly matters. But even mentioning data integrity to them and the importance of it across the organization, if when there is buy-in in organizations, it allows your sellers, it allows your marketers, it allows your customer success teams to respond to what's happening with prospects and clients in the right way at the right time. The overall health of your current customers demand you to be able to understand what they're doing, whether it's from a usage standpoint, what they're feeling, what they're thinking, so that you can ensure, when that renewal is coming up, that the 6-8 months prior, you've already done the work to make sure that automatically gets signed on the dotted line, right? And same thing with prospects. We talked about speed to lead earlier. How often, what organizations are visiting the website, the types of material that marketing is sending out. Do your sellers know what that is? Are they sending different messages, the same message, complementary messages? And that all stems with data across the customer journey and what's available in your instance. If it's hard to find, these folks are going to have a difficult time driving revenue for your organization. And when you kind of explain how data integrity and Salesforce cleanup ties
Yes.
to revenue, and the ability to effectively go after that revenue, then it becomes a different type of conversation. And then we get to start to clean up the instance, and we start to see real impact in whether it's the sales cycle or conversion rates, because folks are able to do their job at a higher level of productivity and more efficiently.
100%. And I think that's really important there, right? Is it's not data for the sake of data. It's not data integrity for the sake of data integrity. It's the fact that when we get our house in order, our tech in order, it allows us to move faster at the end of the day. Right. And everybody remember the movie Armageddon. And when you're talking about that, Matt, it reminds me of that scene, right, where Bruce Willis's oil drilling team and the NASA team are at NASA headquarters, and his team goes in and starts ripping out all of the stuff that isn't needed. And you end up with this super streamlined vehicle that has an increase in velocity, and the team can use it. And I think that might be the aha moment here is it is that harmonization of people, process, and tech. And if you're like, oh, well, we need all these fields filled out, salespeople are not going to fill out fields, number one. Number two, we live in a world of 2025 where technology exists that can automate some of that for us. And number three, we don't want write-in votes here, people. So, because again, you can't measure that at the end of the day. So talk a little bit about that flexibility in a system, Matt, right? Where we know we need the data, and data is very black and white and very linear. People are not, right? And so talk about that harmonization of that, right? Yes, we either get the contract or we don't. But you know what? Along the way is this customer journey that has deep feeling and emotion and ownership and people. So talk a little bit about that and how that works for your clients.
You said the word linear, and I kind of want to key in on that, because from a data standpoint, that's really been a hot button topic for a number of our clients. When you talk about conversion rates, a lot of times you're talking about stages and an opportunity going from one stage to the next stage. And, if we're talking about new business sales, for example, most CROs would like to see that motion happen in a linear fashion. I did X, I went to Y, and then I went to Z, or some combination of those, but I met a certain criteria to now move to another stage. Right. However, when we start looking at analysis for organizations that do not have things like stage gates to help control the linearity of an opportunity, what you end up seeing is you see opportunities moving forward and backward, forward and backward. Oftentimes there's no deal desk in place. So you might see something moving to close one and then move back because they forgot to get some level of approval or signature or something, right? So, when we think about linearity in processes, and when we talk to people about moving things from stage to stage, I think in Salesforce, when it comes to data integrity, when it comes to integrity in HubSpot or your CRM, it comes down to putting in the right gates and the right rules that don't necessarily restrict you from filling out information or doing something, but it actually causes the data to move a certain way. And when it moves a certain way, you can tell a better story. You can actually figure out what's going on. If the movement of that data is all over the place, then you start to have data and results and analysis that doesn't really tell you a lot. It adds confusion. You don't really know where the bottlenecks are in your process. So, evaluate yourself. If you don't have stage gates today, think about how you can put stage gates in Salesforce, but think about how that they can apply to the one thing that you need done on that stage before it moves on, knowing that you may get criteria that typically happens further down the sales cycle. You may get it early, right? So how do you think about that so that you have some linearity in your sales process?
Yep.
So, Salesforce, HubSpot, CRMs out there have a lot of ways to help control that data story.
Yes.
And understanding that and taking the time to do that will result in more accurate dashboards, a better understanding of your journey, and how you can improve those processes along the way.
Yeah, I love what you just said there, Matt, where data tells a story and having it be measured and metered and monitored at the end of the day, right? Data tells a story, a number tells a story. If you are having a medical emergency, guess what number is on your speedometer? It is probably not the speed limit. Numbers tell a story at the end of the day. And I think that is just such a beautiful thing to keep in mind for all of us as we kind of move forward, thinking about how to harmonize people, process, and tech. Our tech is there to help us, not hinder us. So how do we get the most out of it at the end of the day for everybody involved? So love that. So Matt, where should people go to find you?
You can find us at access.io. Take a look at our website. It's easy to schedule a meeting with myself or anyone on our team. We'd love to talk to you about your CRM, and we'll take a look at what's going on for free and provide you a readout as to different ways that you can get some quick wins. And whether you use this or not, that's okay too. We just want to be here to help partner with people to do the next right thing.
Yeah, I love that, Matt. So very much appreciate that. I would also recommend everybody connect with Matt on LinkedIn as well. Follow his company, some really great information there if you're a startup and wanting to get better and make sure your RevOps house is in order. All right, everybody, thank you so much. This has been RevShot Special Edition. We have our regularly scheduled program tomorrow with Michael Muse of Muse and Gordon, who is an amazing individual sharing with us all things marketing, and that doesn't even begin to do it justice. So thanks everybody for tuning in today. Thanks, Matt, and we'll talk with you all soon.
Thank you, Dion. Have a great day.
You as well.